Hello everyone, I'm Karen. Today is going to be a very special video. Today I'm going to be reviewing an album that celebrates its 40th anniversary today, and that is one of my favourite albums of all time. It's Bruce Springsteen and the River from 1980. So I'm going to go over the album's history, show you my copy of the vinyl record and copies of the album I have, and go over some singles that come out at the time, and go over all the tracks individually and say whether I like them or not, and rate the whole album as a whole. So we're going to get to this. Now, The River was Bruce Springsteen's 5th album, released on October the 17th, 1980 on CBS and Columbia Records. The album, most of the songs go back to its history, originate from 1978, when Bruce had recorded a lot of these songs for the previous album, which was called Darkness on the Edge of Town. But a lot of those songs were never included on Darkness on the Edge of Town, and so Bruce ended up playing those songs live on the Darkness on the Edge of Town tour. But there's many interesting early performances of things like Point Blank and Independence Day and Sherry Darling and The Ties That Bind. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that was performed before this album even came out. After the Darkness on the Edge of Town tour was complete, Bruce went into the studio with the E Street Band, and they began rehearsing at his home in Holmdel, New Jersey. And then afterwards they went to the Power Station studios in New York City, where they recorded this album, and it turned out to be a great sounding album for the studio. In the studio they made it, and it's got a great sound to it, I'd say. Well, I've never been there, but I know it's got a great sound from hearing this album. Bruce had written loads of songs and recorded quite a lot, and in the summer of '79 he had assembled 10 for an album, and they were due to come out in like the late 1979. But however, before that was released, Bruce decided to pull that record and work on the album a bit more. And then his manager John Landau suggested that in order to try and come past what Bruce was trying to achieve, to make it a double album. So The River was worked on a lot more in 1980, and by May of 1980 the album was complete and mixed. And by October the album came out, and Bruce went on tour to promote the album, and the tour really stapled Bruce's staple as a live rock act. On its release in 1980, it did really well. It was a UK top 10, charting at number 2, and it was an American number 1. So it was Bruce's first UK top 10 album, and yeah, it's a really great album. It's understandable why. And in 2003, Rolling Stone magazine put it in 253 of greatest albums of all time, in the 500 greatest albums of all time. I think it should be out, it's great. But anyways, and we're going to go over my copies. So here's the front, really great picture. There's the back. All the band members' names down there, and who produced and recorded what, and there's the songs there, which we'll talk about them all. Go up. Now this copy comes with the insert with all the lyrics on. And the inside with the lyrics of every song, and the 2 inner sleeves are here. It says, nice picture of the band there. On the other side is a selection of different photos. And there's the other sleeve. Again, similar. And this album is on the CBS label. There's a label there. Second LP is identical. So I've also got other copies as well. Like I have this CD one here, which is from the Bruce Springsteen collection box set, which I've got, which I might do a video on. They put it onto 2 CDs like the double vinyl, because there probably would have been no space to put it on a single disc. Disc there. And I have another copy of The River as well. This is one that was given to me by my dad. Unfortunately, it is a little bit battered. It's got a lot of tape all over it, but I wouldn't get rid of it because it's my dad's copy, and there's a bit of a repair, unfortunately. It's quite split down the bottom, but this was my dad's in the 80s, and he played this to death back in 1980, so don't blame him. But it has the insert, and it has the inner sleeves, and the records are also on CBS. In fact, they play okay. They play not too bad. But there's a bit of jumping, a bit. But other than that, it plays alright, I suppose. I've done a video on this, but I'm going to show it anyway. But it's the Ties That Bind River box. Basically, you get a lot of great things in this box. Basically, this the back of it will explain what we get here. The original album remastered, the single album it was going to be, which was going to be called The Ties That Bind, the River Outtakes, which is interesting, and a couple of DVDs, one of the Ties That Bind documentary, and two of a concert in Tempe in 1980 in Arizona. And it's an amazing, amazing watch. You should definitely watch it on YouTube because it's a great, great concert. And it even has a book inside with like handwritten lyrics as well, to give you an idea of what Bruce was writing at the time and sort of when he was making this this album. So yeah. Try and get this in. So there's that. Okay, so now we're going over all the album's tracks, both records. So we open this album up with the Ties That Bind. Now this is a great, great opener. I love the do drum rhythm, and it's got great rhythm to it. It's got great lyrics to it. This was one of the ones that was going to be on the single album, and this was the title track of that single album. And this is a great, great way to open the album. One of my favourite Bruce songs there. Next is Sherry Darling. Now this is a real upbeat like party song in a way. It's got, because it got kind of like, it's kind of got a party ambience with the song. A great rhythm, great beat, and the saxophone as well, which is amazing. Played by Clarence Clemens, just amazing saxophone. It's all there, and yeah, it's just a really, really great song, the Sherry Darling. Next is Jackson Cage. Now this is a pretty good song, Jackson Cage. It's a pretty good song. The harmonica in the middle bit's good. Lyrics are pretty good. Yeah, good song, Jackson Cage. Then Two Hearts, one of my favourites on the album. Great song and great backing harmony with Steve Van Zandt and Bruce there. Really great song, Two Hearts. Great rhythm, great guitar work and stuff like that. Then we get Independence Day. This is one of the slow songs off the album because there's quite a few slow moments of this album. And this is Inside One. Now Independence Day is a great song, and one of those that tells a great story. And the organ at the start with Danny Federici playing it is great. The saxophone solo in the middle by Clarence is great. It's one of the many Bruce songs that tell a story. And this is the story of a son who leaves his dad and basically needs independence. But it's a really great song. It's one of Bruce's example of storytelling in a way. He could do storytelling so well. And we turn it over to side 2. Before I've mentioned, Sherry Darling was a single. It didn't really do too well, but I have the single here. And next up is side 2 is Hungry Heart. Now this is one of my favourite Bruce songs. It's definitely my top 10 Bruce songs, Hungry Heart. Great song. It's got like a 50s feel to it in a way. This was something he was going to give to the Ramones, but manager John Landau suggested that Bruce keep it for himself to record, and a great thing to do, to record it. And this was also a favourite of John Lennon's. So, in an interview before he died, John Lennon mentioned that he liked the song Hungry Heart and compared it to his single Just Like Starting Over, which had come out around about the same time as Hungry Heart did. And Hungry Heart was the first single off the album. It didn't do too well in the UK. It was number 44 in the UK, and I think it was a number 5 in America. It did better as a single, and I can sort of see why that single didn't do as well as it done on the album, because the album, people I think more folk had bought the album than they had with the single, so I can see why Hungry Heart didn't do so well, but it's one of my favourite Bruce songs. Next is Out in the Street. This is one of my favourites. This is a real upbeat song as well, another great one of my favourite songs there, Out in the Street. Good lyrics to it as well, great song. Next is Crush on You. This is a real rocker, and that's one of my favourite Bruce rockers. The guitar works great, saxophone solo is great, the lyrics are great as well, pretty good as well. And so yeah, and this is You Can Look But You Better Not Touch. This is a pretty good upbeat rocker too. It's a great song, you know, Bruce saying went to a shopping mall, saw this thing I can hang on my wall, I knock over the lamp, and then I hit the floor, caught it, and the salesman turned around saying you break that thing, you bought it. A great example of storytelling, I'd say. And that is one of the many cases in this album. And a lot of the songs I'm going to talk about pretty much tell stories in a way, which is really good. Now we have I Want to Marry You, another slow song. one of my favourite slow songs, and the saxophone at the end is great too. Vocals are nice, and the lyrics are pretty good. Then The River. This ends record 1 and side 2. The River, the title track, is one of my favourite Bruce songs, also released as a single. I think got to number 35 in the charts. Again, probably because the album had been out and was a big hit in the charts, that The River didn't do well as a single. So this was inspired by Bruce's sister Virginia. She had got pregnant young. She married young, and her Bruce's brother-in-law worked in construction, and they went through a recession, and they went through a lot of difficult times. And a lot of the lyrics in this song sort of from that experience. And it's one of my favourite Bruce songs, and the harmonica at the start is just one of the best harmonica intros in a song in general. For The River. Yeah, one of my favourite Bruce songs. Then we move on to record 2, and we start off quite slow with a song called Point Blank. Now, Point Blank's a pretty good slow song. It's a pretty good song. It's a nice slow song to sort of have on record 2, I suppose. This was one of the ones that was played in the Darkness tour. In fact, I think the earliest was in the summer of '78 at the Roxy Theatre in Hollywood. But yeah, you can go on YouTube and check them out. These versions of the Darkness in Town tour. Next is Cadillac Ranch. This is one of my favourite Bruce rockers. It's a real upbeat rocker song. Even the version in Phoenix, Arizona, 1980 concert, you should check that out on YouTube. I'll probably leave a link for it down below. Cadillac Ranch from the River Tour, Tempe 1980. Just check that footage out because it's a great performance. But the studio version is really good too. It's a real, kind of like a Rolling Stones vibe, but a little rock and roll vibe with this song. And it's one of my favourites on the album, Cadillac Ranch. Then we get I'm a Rocker. This is another rocker, and it's a really good rocker, I must say. Yeah, it's got a good, sort of good beat to it. Yeah, so it's got a good beat to it and good lyrics to it, and yeah, great song, I'm a Rocker. Then Fade Away. This is a nice, slow, soft song on the album. This is, again, one of my favourites. Basically one of my favourite organ solos with Danny Federici or Roy Bittan or whoever it is. But yeah, Fade Away, great song. Next, the last song on side 3 is one of my favourites. This is Stolen Car. Stolen Car, this is a nice soft slow song. Bruce sort of telling a story how he met a girl, fell in love, settled down, they get married and the marriage fell apart, and now he's driving in a stolen car on a pitch black night. And this is just a great example of Bruce's writing. And this has become one of my favourite songs in recent times, Stolen Car. Yeah, great song. The piano by Roy Bittan is great, and the organ at the end with Danny Federici is really great. It's just quite a nice, slow, haunting song in a way, Stolen Car. And then we turn over to side 4. And the last side in the album, we have Ramrod. This is a great opener and a great upbeat opener for side 4. And yeah, one of my favourites, Ramrod there. It's just like, again, like Sherry Darling, it's kind of like a party song. Sort of like, because it's really upbeat, you know. And yeah, one of my favourites, Ramrod. Even the saxo in the middle is great. Then we have The Price You Pay, which is one of my favourite Bruce songs. And also one of my dad's favourite Bruce Springsteen songs too. Nice, sort of, kind of soft song, not much upbeat really, but it's quite a nice soft song. Great lyrics to it too, you know. Even the harmonica solo in the middle is also great, and the harmonica, yeah, really great song there. The Price You Pay. Next we have Drive All Night. This is again another soft, slow song. It's kind of probably the longest song on the album because it's like 8 minutes or something like that, but it's one of my favourites of this album, Drive All Night. And the saxophone solo in the middle is great. Even Bruce, I think, plays piano on this because it's credited in the insert, which I'll check again. Yes, it says Bruce Springsteen piano on Drive All Night. So that's quite interesting. Never thought Bruce played piano there. Yeah, great soft, slow song. Drive All Night, one of my favourites of this album, and sort of near the end of the album. Next song is Wreck on the, and the last song on the album, we're coming to the end, is Wreck on the Highway. This is a good soft song to sort of close the album really. It's a nice slow song, basically Bruce sort of telling a story of how one night came home from work at the end of a working day, and basically was driving along, and the character in the song comes across a wreck on the highway. And basically it's a really good soft slow song about sort of life and death in a way. But yeah, one of my favourites of the album. And one of my favourite, very good closer I'd say, Wreck on the Highway. Now, The River, as a whole album, gets a 10 out of 10. It's a brilliant, amazing album. You know, I only realised, like years ago, when I was like 13 or something. I would only really listen to half of the album, but then recently I sort of put on the second half, and I heard bits of the second half before, and I liked what I heard, but I really love the whole album. It's just amazing, you know, and this was what probably the start of like Bruce's big decade. I mean, the 70s, he was just sort of making it, but he made it big with Born to Run in 1975, and with The River, it really was the start of his big era, was like the 1980s, and that would prove to be the case with Born in the USA in 1984. But yeah, this is a really great album, The River, that celebrates 40 years old today. One of my favourite albums of all time. Yeah, really great album. Need I say more? Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you again next video.